I usually don't reach back and do stories from months and months and months ago, but when I listened to a video that Black Fight Fan was doing on his channel talking about the defunding of the police in Minneapolis, and before I go any further, this is not what this video is about, but it's about something that blew me away when I heard it. He mentioned something how in Minneapolis, in the police department, there were 1,700 rape kits that were not tested. And it dated back 30 years. 30 years of untested rape kits that were provided. 1,700. So that means from the time this article was written, which was in November of last year, going back 30 years, that's going back to 1989. That's why a lot of people question a lot of the stuff that goes on with these police departments. I could not believe what my ears were hearing. And I had to actually stop his video when he said that and raise my eyebrow. I was like, are you serious? Like, is this for real? And so I typed it in, and sure enough, a whole bunch of articles popped up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this one article that was posted on November 16th, 2019. And it says Minneapolis police discover 1,700 untested rape kits spanning 30 years. An internal review of sexual that officials say could take at least 2 years to clear. The startling revelation was announced at a City Hall news conference Friday, during which department officials announced plans to hire 3 additional analysts to help process the forensic evidence kits. The latest count far surpasses the 194 untested kits reported during a 2015 audit, part of which Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey called an unjustified mistake that left years of potential evidence sitting in police storage. Speaking to reporters, Police Chief Madeira Arredondo said he had no explanation for the discrepancy in the reported numbers or why so many kits were untested, but he vowed to eliminate the backlog by working with department agencies and advocates to ensure that the kits tested and victims are notified compassionately. That's because probably many of the people that was in the department were the ones doing the raping. The department's sex crimes unit is still conducting a final count to determine how many kits remain, which comes amid a national reckoning over sexual harassment and assault. We have a failure in terms of auditing and processing that is unacceptable, Arredondo said. I very honestly stand before you to say we still don't know why that miscount did occur back in 2015, but moving forward, I can assure you that it will never happen again. Well, we're going to take that with a grain of salt because 1,700 is a large number, even from 194. He said that for the department to rebuild trust, it needed to own up to its past mistakes. Mike Sorrow, a retired lieutenant who ran the sex crimes unit in 2015, defended his handling of the kits, saying a similar audit completed years ago showed far fewer. Most of the kits were deemed restricted, meaning the victim wasn't involved in the investigation and thus were never sent to the state forensic lab for testing and matching against a national database of offender DNA. That just, to me, just in layman terms, screams cover up. We reviewed all the kits from the year 2000 all the way up to 2015, he said in a phone interview Friday. People have this misconception that all kits have to be and should be tested, and that's just not true. If you don't have an official police report made, we can't enter them into the national database, so we can't test them. Kenosha Davenport, executive director of the Sexual Violence Center, said the group will work with police and form a committee to grapple with the moral and ethical considerations that arise from reopening old cases while avoiding re-traumatizing victims. When you look at the span of someone's lifetime, you know the healing journey isn't a linear journey. So we have victims who may have shared with their partner or children. It's critical that the notification process is done diligently and with the support of advocates so we can continue to support them. Prosecutors will have to examine each case to determine whether any statute limitations apply, said Chuck Lazewski, a spokesman for the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. Even then, he said, securing a conviction in rape cases can be challenging. It has always been and continues to be a difficult crime to get a guilty verdict. There's usually only 2 people. There's usually no witnesses, so it can be difficult to provide enough evidence to get a jury to prove them guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Deputy Chief Eric Force said the untested kits were discovered in July when the department was accounting for untested kits that need to be sent to the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension under state law. The kits, he said, are inventoried, sorted, and maintained in police storage facilities around the city, and they're now being physically tallied to determine a final number. All have been properly stored, he said. The department is now working with the BCA to fund additional analysts to process the untested kits. More than 60 untested kits have already been sent to the agency. The culture has changed, and we have an obligation to test these kits. We're looking at some periods of time where that philosophy wasn't applied, and we really see the benefit to have this done. Hopefully, this will not be the only result in people getting justice, but this is a debt that we owe. The revelation of the untested kits comes just 1 year after the Star Tribune series Denied Justice documented widespread failings in the investigation and prosecution of sexual assault in Minnesota and spurred changes by police departments and county prosecutors throughout the state. Minnesota police frequently struggle to investigate cases of sex assault in the years reviewed, often failing to interview witnesses, collect evidence, or even assign detectives in cases in which the victim was drinking, the months-long investigation found. Only about 1 in 4 sex assault reports filed with Minneapolis police is sent to the county attorney for prosecution. The department recently has joined other law enforcement agencies around the state in taking steps to identify and process every untested kit. The department hired a victims advocate last August to work alongside investigators and help rape survivors navigate the sometimes labyrinthine process of reporting assault. Friday's announcement was met with frustration and condemnation in victory advocacy circles. Jude Foster of the State Coalition Against Sexual Assault says she was shocked but not surprised by the staggering number of untested kits, but she also saw it as a sign that law enforcement is starting to take such cases seriously. She likened it to Detroit, where officials pushed hard to clear a backlog of more than 11,000 untested kits, subsequent testing of which identified hundreds of potential suspects. I felt really encouraged that the mayor of Minneapolis is taking this seriously, that the chief of police is taking this seriously. I saw transparency and accountability today, said Foster, the agency's statewide medical forensic policy programs coordinator. That means that law enforcement is really looking at past practices, and that means that things are really starting to take change. Under the state's rape law enacted last year, police have 10 days to retrieve unrestricted exam kits from healthcare facilities and 60 days to submit them for testing. They are also required, when asked, to inform victims about the status of their kits and any findings. Police are not required to test every kit connected to a reported crime, including cases in which they think the results hold no evidentiary value, although they must explain why in writing. That is some wild shit right there. 1,700 dating back 30 years. 31 if you count this year. But like I said, I think they was covering some stuff up for some people in that department and for those who probably are related to those in that department. I don't put any of this past them. I trust them as far as I can throw them, and I can't throw them very far. But this is very interesting. I can't wait to see what the comments is going to look like behind this. But you know what? I'm almost certain that there are definitely more departments out there like this. Like they said in Detroit, they said 11,000. My goodness, I thought 1,700 was a lot, but they said 11,000 in Detroit. But yeah, I think it's something definitely going on with that department. I mean, look at what's been recently going on now. I think the veil is being lifted even further back.